Hello, my name is Emily Bynon, and today I'm going to talk about Brahms' Fourth Symphony. In particular, the solo in the last movement, which is so often asked for orchestral auditions. All Brahms symphonies have wonderful flute parts, but this moment in particular is very, very special. So where does it appear? We're in the Fourth Symphony in the fourth movement, and I think the first thing to remember is this is a fast movement. Allegro, energico e passionato. And the whole movement is based on a passacaglia, a series of variations, if you like, on these notes.
Hello, everyone. Greetings to everyone out there in Flute Land. Flute nerds, Haynes nerds, all. It's really nice to be here. And as you've just seen a little taste of a video that is absolutely piping hot off the press, which was just literally released this very morning, a matter of hours ago. And the person who released that particular video is the guest today, and we're going to talk to her. This week we're talking to a selection of wonderful women of the flute. So on Tuesday we had Erica Boyson. Next Tuesday we have Amy Porter. Both of them we're talking about their digital project, and so today we have got the one and only, the very lovely, wonderful Emily Bynon.
Hello, Gareth.
There, good. Oh,
hello.
There we are. Good. So there we are. So I'm coming to you from a glorious, sunny, warm London afternoon. How is it in Amsterdam?
It's been the most beautiful spring I think we've ever had, or maybe I've just had time to notice it. I don't know, but yeah, it's been gorgeous.
I'm wondering if you know, because obviously it's sort of, we can't go out so much. But I'm wondering actually if it had been one of those springs where it was just lashing rain, whether it would have been just really unbearable, just to sort of be stuck inside and also have to look at the clouds. Whereas with having the blue sky, it's helped a little bit. But
definitely.
So, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good, as long as I think about today and tomorrow and not too much about next week and not at all about next month or next year. Then I'm actually quite happy.
Yeah, there are sort of moments of zen, aren't there? I suppose it's one of those sort of things where we're given this unexpected and not entirely welcome gift of time, and it's a funny one. But one of the reasons we're going to, because it's lovely to say hello to you anyway. But one of the reasons that we're going to have a chat today is because of this wonderful digital project that you've got on the go, which is your lockdown insanity prevention.
Yes.
Or your LIP
project.
Yes, indeed. Good. Let me just check that. I just want to make sure that the feed is coming through okay. Let me just check. Yes, it is. Good. Yes, it's coming through fine. Good. Just need to double check that. Good. And yeah, so tell us about this. What exactly is this project?
Well, the title says it all, really. Lockdown Insanity Prevention. In the first instance, it was a way of keeping myself motivated through these months without any concerts. And I thought, well, if I can do something which has some kind of lasting helpfulness to other people, that would be really great. And hello, Matteo.
Oh yes, you're seeing all the little messages. Yes, I think we'll get. If we keep doing shout outs, I think we might not get through this. But it's always nice to see Matteo. So yeah, and so this is on your YouTube channel. But I wanted to talk. I just wanted to just have a chat so we could talk about you a little bit. I just wanted to know. So, like, what were your musical beginnings? How did you end up sort of getting onto the flute and so on?
Well, my parents actually met in a youth orchestra, and my father was playing the flute, and I don't think he ever had any lessons, and he gave up as soon as he left university, pretty much. but there was a flute in the house. And so when recorder lessons at school were going quite well, and I seemed to be enjoying that and doing, the extra recorder club and nerdy things like that. One day I just happened to find my dad's old flute in the attic, and I was with my sister and 2 friends, and I was the only one who could get a sound out of it. And so I thought, ooh, that's quite nice that I can do something other people can't do. Little did I know that half the world plays the flute, but at the time I didn't know, blissful ignorance. And so I went round the house and the garden for the next days and weeks, playing very, very badly all my recorder tunes with all the wrong fingerings, but, with something like the right principle. And so my parents thought, help, we need to get her a flute teacher.
Wonderful.
That was
And it's funny because you were referenced in a certain Mr. Gareth Davis's interview a couple of weeks ago, because you were in youth orchestra together in Surrey. Because is it your mum was his English teacher? Is that right?
Exactly. My mum and his dad were actually at school, in the same school in Wales, and then one of those crazy coincidences, we all ended up near Guildford, and actually we were in the flute section had Ian Clark, me, Katie Bircher, and Gareth Davis.
Wowzer!
Yeah, so that was
killer flute section. Wow, that's
not all at the same time, but in my time in the orchestra, I started off playing 4th flute to Ian Clark's first flute, and his wife Caroline was playing as well.
Wow.
And then just as sort of as I was leaving, then Gareth was joining. And
very cool, very cool.
Kind of parallel.
And then once you decided to take the flute quite seriously, I guess you went on to study. Where did you study after school?
Well, all through high school, secondary school, I went to the Junior Royal College on Saturdays. I was going to say Saturday mornings, but it was actually 9 till 3, 4. So it was quite an intensive day. So I did that all the way through secondary school, and then went to the Royal Academy for 4 years with William Bennett. And then I went to Paris for a year after that.
To the conservatory there.
Well, it was with Alain Marion, who was teaching at the conservatory, but I actually got offered my first job when I was still at the academy, and that was Glyndebourne Touring Opera. And they have an opera season, a touring season from September till December, which meant that I couldn't go over to Paris to do my audition. So I rang up Mr. Marion and asked if I might be able to start in January. And he said, well, if you can clear it with the French government, because it was a French government scholarship that I had to study there, if you can clear it with them, then fine by me.
Cool.
So I lived in Paris from January till August, and then the rest of that year I went over once every 2 weeks or so.
So that was your first job then, in the touring opera, and then what happened? Was that your only job before you went to Concertgebouw, or what else did you do?
No, it was I did that for 4 seasons, 4 years, from 91 to 94, and then I won the Concertgebouw audition in the following February, so 95, and then I started in May of 95. But then in the meantime, I'd been on trial for the BBC Welsh, National Orchestra of Wales, since coming back from Paris, actually. So for basically 2 years on and off. And then they offered me the job. So I started that in January. And we'd started doing auditions for the second flute, because there was also a vacancy for second flute. And then I won the job in Amsterdam. So I sort of had to hand in my resignation after 3 weeks of playing.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Well, I guess that. So auditions. You've been a pretty successful audition candidate. Did you have any disaster stories, or did it all just seem to fit into place?
I haven't done that many auditions, and there were, I remember in my BBC Welsh audition doing the Mendelssohn Scherzo, and it was in this huge studio, And after I'd played the Mendelssohn Scherzo, there were 4 of them, 5 of them sitting behind a desk, and they said, "Come here, we want to talk to you." And so I had to walk across the whole huge studio and got to the table, and they said, "Do you have any friends who play the clarinet?" And my flatmate at that time was a clarinetist. So I said, yeah. "Well, you won't keep those friends for very long if you play it that fast." Yeah, things like that.
But you still got the job, so it can't have been that bad. So I mean, yes, I guess that's
well, it made me play it again a bit slower, and yeah.
And they must have been happy enough with that. Good. and then so you went across to Amsterdam to the wonderful Concertgebouw orchestra, and where you've been based ever since. What was it like?
25 years.
25 years. But then you must have got the job when you were about 5 or 6. I don't understand.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask you about what the challenges were moving to a new country, where, I mean, because I think obviously in the Netherlands they speak pretty good English everywhere, but I mean, you also are now completely fluent, like a native in Dutch, and I wanted to know sort of how did you get to the position that you're in? How long did it take to assimilate? How long did it take to learn the language? What were the challenges that you found whenever you moved across to Amsterdam?
Well, the biggest challenge is, as you say, that all the Dutch can speak such amazing English that as soon as they hear you struggling or stumbling or a bit of an accent, then they'll switch to English. And so I actually started doing, before I came to Amsterdam, I started doing a linguaphone course, and I was very disciplined and I did my half hour every day of a linguaphone. And then I got to Amsterdam, I thought, oh, everyone can speak English. Okay, let's get on with trying to do the job properly. So that was my focus for the first, certainly the first year and a half. And then I sort of, it got so tiring, going to the pub after a concert, for example. People would very kindly translate for the first half hour, and then a couple of beers later, and suddenly you're sort of left thinking, what does that mean? What is good? And because I knew a few words, some very strange stories started forming in my head. I don't know whether they were strange stories, but and then I broke up with my boyfriend, who was still in London, and I thought, okay, I'm really choosing for the job and I'm really choosing for the country. I better get on with learning the language properly.
Sorry, that is Marina Piccinini calling.
Oh, answer it.
Oh no, that I can't. That would be very embarrassing for her. It's very embarrassing for me. I thought everything. This is the problem with Apple devices, that everything rings. Yeah. Everything rings. I hope it's charming. I shall have to say it. Apologies to Marina. There we are. But you're friends with her anyway, so that's lovely. What a nice thing that she's calling.
We were meant to be playing together in NFA.
I know, yes. Yeah, well, and I was meant to be writing you an arrangement of Rusalka, which I will get around to.
How's that going?
But no, I've said it online. It's a matter of record, so I have to get on with it. Good. So where was I? So yes, about the assimilation and culturally, you sort of you fitted in, and you feel. I mean, do you feel as at home in Amsterdam as anywhere else, or did you still get a certain thing when you come back to London or anything like that?
Well, I mean, I think I'm very lucky, certainly given my profession, that I'm a little bit of a gypsy spirit, and I feel at home wherever I unpack my suitcase, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I do feel very, very comfortable here. I don't think I'm not very Dutch. I don't think I'll ever be Dutch, although I am in the process of trying to get a Dutch passport.
Understandably.
Because of the B word.
Yes.
And I also have nostalgic feelings when I come back to Britain. And
to Wales, I imagine, as well. Do you still have? I mean, because obviously you spent a lot of time in Surrey and everything. But do you have like with me, if I see the rolling hills, or if I hear Danny Boy, then I feel very Irish.
Yeah.
Do you get the same sort of thing when you hear a male voice choir or something?
Yes, I mean, yes, I can get quite nostalgic about Wales. Although, to be honest, I didn't grow up there. I haven't lived there for very much of my life, but it was where we always went on holiday. So
Right.
3 times a year we were with the grannies, but they're no longer with us. But so I started a project about 3 years ago. I'm walking the whole coastal path around Wales in sort of 120-kilometer blocks. It takes me about a week to walk 120 kilometers, and I figured that was quite a good solo walking trip because, you know, all I have to remember is sea left, land right, and you know, you can't really get very lost.
Yeah, I think for people watching at home, just do have a Google of Welsh coastline, and you will understand why this is a project. It's Google image search, I should say.
1,440 kilometers.
Yeah.
So I reckon it's going to be about 10 or 11 weeks spread over 10 or 11 years.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
Wonderful. So
I'm learning Welsh.
Oh, to that as well. And is it easier? I mean, because with you being so fluent in another language, have you found it easier to learn other languages as well? Does it sort of open up a door? I mean, because I think Brits and Americans are classically just so lazy with this because everyone wants to speak English to you.
Mm.
Has that been easier to do that?
Not really. I mean, Welsh is such an old language and such a different language from Dutch. Dutch is it's got similar grammar to German in many ways, and it sounds like the way it looks.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't say the same about Welsh. So it hasn't been a huge help to learning Welsh, I have to say.
Although it's got in common.
Yes, yeah. yes, indeed.
That's a nice little bit of cross-fertilization. And so I wanted to talk about this particular. I've got your lovely lip thing on here. So it's a whole selection of video tutorials, and it's just and it seems it's based on a whole range of ideas. And you've got Mozart concertos, you've got breathing, you've got vibrato, you've also got little fun little multi-screen flute things that you've done as well. How did you go about, and you got a blooper reel also, very good. How did you go about choosing the subject matter?
Oh, that was it was one of those things. I was actually at the start of the lockdown. I had the idea to do every day to do a Telemann fantasy, and I spent a couple of days working on them, and then I just thought, you know what, there are people who can do this so much more authentically and, you know, on a Brock flute, and, you know, maybe I should leave it to the specialists. But I wanted to do something on a sort of regular, with some sort of regularity, to keep myself sort of motivated and engaged, so that I didn't sort of end up sitting on the sofa watching Netflix all day long. So I'd never filmed anything. I'd never edited anything. So it was quite difficult to, I mean, it was a challenge to sort of work my way around iMovie, and I mean, it's quite intuitive, and but I've made so many mistakes, and now if I did those first few films again, I'd probably do them quite differently, but, you know, it's the best I could do at the moment, and I've had some nice feedback, and
yeah, well, they're getting a lot more slick. All the production values are getting higher and higher. It's great. I mean, I suppose as artistic people, we ought to look back at things we've done before and be, oh, why did I do that? But, you know, I think that it's getting I say more and more slick with the production values, which is great. Mm-hmm. And like so many things, I mean, so for example, I mean, because we've been doing these Haynes TV things, these live streams, which would be really good fun, and like so many things that's happened because, you know, as a result of this lockdown, we're sort of thinking we ought to do this more often anyway. We should, because it's just nice. It's nice to do. It's fun. We're connecting with people. We're, you know, letting people, you know, interesting people tell their stories and talk about their art and everything else. Do you think you're going to continue this and and make it you know, maybe not be lockdown insanity prevention, but, you know, something else?
Pass. I don't know at the moment. I've got. At the moment, I spent today editing the next one, which is a Mendelssohn Scherzo, which comes out next Thursday. And after that, I've got 2 more, which I've said I'll do. So I'll certainly do those. And after that, I've got a few ideas for follow-ups, but so I want to do a second breathing one, sort of more on the artistic side rather than being on the technical side. The same with vibrato, because those are both sort of more about the mechanics of the whole process. And I think it would be quite nice to do a follow-up, a part 2 of those, to show something more about the artistic use of them. In a little bit in the way that I did with the Mozart. That sort of happened. I meant to do one film, and as I was filming it, I realized this is not going to fit in 10 minutes, which is my goal. I haven't managed 10 minutes on most of them, but
so like a half a TED talk or something.
Yeah, so I split that up into sort of general rules and things, and then I did a bar by bar, going through the whole exposition of the G major. So I might do a follow up of the vibrato and the breathing. I've had several requests to do something about articulation. Mm-hmm. So I might do that.
And a lot of the time, because YouTube has got the comments, you know, it's always interesting, because then you read through those, and then you get there. It can be extra fuel for future sessions.
But the thing is, I'm so bad. I'm so slow at editing. I mean, if once normal life resumes, there's no way I can devote, 3 days a week to making each film, which is what it's taking me at the moment. Well, maybe I'll get better at it, but.
Exactly, you'll get a lot quicker. Good. I wanted to ask about any of your favorite composers and genres of music. I know that because you've arranged, you've edited the beautiful Frühling fantasy, which you I think you discovered that piece. You rediscovered it.
I can't take credit for discovering it. The cellist Stephen Isserlis has recorded the Frühling trio for cello, clarinet, and piano. And he was in the library in Vienna looking for more material by him. And he came across this fantasy for flute and orchestra. But there was no orchestral score, just the piano reduction. But Frühling himself was a pianist, so that sort of worked quite well. And he sent me a copy of the manuscript and said, Emily, can you, I think he's a wonderful composer. Is this any good? And I happened to be, the following week, I happened to be down in Prussia Cove, where Stephen was as well. And one evening we just did a sort of read through, but there's only the score. So I'd spent all afternoon cutting out the flute part and I played it then thereafter in several concerts, and flute players came up to me afterwards and sort of said, where can we get the music? It's gorgeous. And so then I contacted Stefano Cioffi in Rome to ask him if he would be kind enough to consider publishing it, which he did, and now it's proved quite popular, and quite a lot of people are playing it, and so I'm thrilled to bits, and I still love playing it. I think it's terrific.
Yeah, it's important. It was exactly what, because I first heard you play it at the Flautissimo in Rome, whenever that was. Who knows? It was one of the Flautissimos, I remember thinking exactly that. I'm going to buy that today or tomorrow in the Triato, and I did. So
attractive sort of lyrical writing, and we don't have that much material from that sort of very romantic but not French era. So it's I think it's a terrific piece, and I'm thrilled that Stefano's just recently published the Geraldine Mucha piece, My Journey, as well. Kesta or Sesta, I don't know how to pronounce it in Czech, but
cool.
It's another piece which I sort of, a musicologist friend of mine got in touch and said, did I know this composer and did I know this piece? I said no. Well, I wrote to the foundation and they sent me some material. And again, I played it in a few concerts, and people were so enthusiastic. I thought, this has to, get out there and reach more flute players. So,
great. And is that? I mean, do you have a? Do you have a general sort of favorite genre or era of music, or does it depend what how you feel that day, or does it depend in what context? So like in orchestra, do you have one favorite? With flute and piano, do you have another? What's your when do you sort of go and you're ready to go?
Well, I think the reason why I wanted to play in an orchestra really was the whole sort of romantic symphony, the Tchaikovsky, the Brahms, all that kind of music, Mahler, fantastic. And I absolutely adore playing in the orchestra. I mean, from the very first time that I played in that youth orchestra with Gareth Davis and Ian Clark, I was 12 years old when I got into the orchestra, and Ian was playing first flute, and we did Tchaikovsky 4 after the break. I'd done my audition before the break, and then I heard that I got a place in the orchestra, so I could stay for the rehearsal. So sight reading the 4th movement of Tchaikovsky 4 was my sort of baptism of fire. And it was just the most thrilling thing I'd ever done. Until then, I was 12 years old, and I just thought, I want to do this. I didn't even realize it was a job. I just realized I want to do this a lot in my life. And I remember having that sort of thought, and I still really, really, really love it.
Yeah, cool. And it would, well, as we're on sort of favorites, and because who are the sort of the big players in your artistic life? Who the people who you would sort of say these are my favorite conductors or favorite soloists that you've worked with, in the orchestra, or likewise favorite flute players that have been a huge influence on you? Who are the big people that sort of loom large in your head? So
many. I mean, obviously, flutistically, having studied with Wib for 4 years, he's such a big personality and such a great musician that he has to be my biggest flute hero without any doubt. But I mean, the conductors we get in the orchestra are just one more wonderful than the other. It's so difficult to name a favorite, but I mean, Maris Jansson's, I cried a lot when he died in December, and he was an amazing musician, and his sort of discipline and attention to detail in a score, and absolutely what I think his most what was so amazing about him was that in the rehearsals, I mean, the intensity of a rehearsal is more electrifying than some concerts I've given with other conductors. Everyone absolutely on the edge of their seats, and he was so demanding, would not let anything go until it was exactly the way he wanted it. But then, and that was the magic, in the concert he let it all go, and I think that is just the most inspiring sort of combination, and that's absolutely what I strive for in my own playing, is don't let anything get past you in the practice room, and then on the stage forgive yourself everything. Easier said than done, but
because I mean I know because you've mentioned this to me before, that you love rehearsing. You love rehearsals. You're one of these people who you seem to adore it. And so is this? I mean, because actually I'm calling back to this original youth orchestra experience. Do you think that sort of seminal moment of just wow might have sort of implanted some love of rehearsal in you? Your first experience of a rehearsal like that was so obviously so mind blowing. You remember it so well.
Maybe that's part of it. I remember the first concert I did with the youth orchestra, thinking, "Oh my God, I hope that the conductor remembers that he can't stop," because we'd been rehearsing this same piece for 3 months every Sunday morning, and I was really worried that the conductor would forget that this was now a concert and that you couldn't stop and correct things. But I have to say, I remember that conversation that we had, about rehearsals. And I did, pre-corona, I did have a theory about musicians falling broadly into 2 camps. The rehearsers people who loved rehearsing and saw a concert as a sort of necessary evil, okay, once in a while I've got to play it for other people so that I can sort of get paid for doing it. And then other people who loved concerts and saw rehearsals as a necessary evil. And I really did believe that for quite a long time. And I would certainly say that I fell into the category of loving rehearsals. But I really, really miss concerts, and I really miss engaging with the public. So I've actually revised my my theory out the window.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've got to love both, actually.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, even because here we have our weekly clap for the clap for carers and things, and I live just next door to a violinist and a cellist, thumping good ones actually as well. And so we played little chamber music concerts in the front garden.
I've seen them on Facebook.
Oh, you've seen lovely, but it was actually sort of quite. It was sort of quite emotional because it was just suddenly it's like, oh, I'm playing with people. And I sort of thought, again, it feels like another silver lining where it could be, you know, let's never take this for granted again. Yeah. Let's really try and remember that this is, you know, it's a privilege to, you know, to play with other people. Yeah. Because it was suddenly, as soon as we played the first few chords and I was like, oh, wow, this really feels lovely and familiar, but just sort of special. So it was, yeah.
And I must say, I've got a newfound respect for my colleagues, having played along with myself with a cappella. So difficult.
Well, that's more to do with the app than it is to do with you. I think you can happily blame the app in that one. I think you can happily play in time. Don't worry about that. I wanted to ask you about one of the other big passions in your life, which is NEFLAC, which is the Netherlands Flute Academy. Tell us, you know, about that. I mean, because this was you're one of the founders of this particular organization.
Yes, well, I'd been teaching in the Hague Royal Conservatory until 2007, and I decided for various reasons to leave, and I wanted to do something for younger Dutch players. But of course, you know, lower down the pyramid, that by definition means more people. So I didn't really have an idea about how I was going to do that. And then purely by chance, I came into contact with an amateur flute player businesswoman who wanted to do something for young Dutch flute players as well. And so we came up with the idea of having a summer academy and a week-long course where actually I was sort of given free rein to build the course that I always wanted to go to, you know. And there's a lot about flute playing, obviously, because it's a flute course, but there's so much about I mean, we have a little mantra within NEFLAC: the person, the musician, the flautist. And so it's an incredibly warm, caring environment. And music is absolutely above flute playing, pure flute playing. And we invite guests. Well, you were kind enough to come and give us a wonderful, wonderful workshop a few years ago. So every year we have one flute player coming to do a workshop on a specialist subject. So you did a wonderful workshop on contemporary.
Yeah, and you play my piece so much. It's what I mean, and because I wanted to ask you because about you seem to, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you seem to have a huge passion and energy towards flute ensemble. I wanted to ask you about why that is, if you know what you see the benefits and the use of flute ensemble. You know, besides obviously it's great fun, but what are your thoughts on that? Because obviously you made a CD even quite recently with NEFLAC.
There's one we made earlier.
Well, there we go.
With your wonderful single yellow line.
Yeah.
And all sorts of arrangements: Bach, Grieg, Monty, Dvorak, but also pieces written especially for flute ensemble, like your piece, Single Yellow Line, and Ian Clark's Within, and Will Offerman's Eternal Winds, which he wrote for us. It's flute ensemble is, you know what? I just think music is about playing with other people, and you know, we're doing a flute course. We're 27 participants with 3 teachers. We're going to play a flute ensemble together because playing music together is so much fun. And I think for a lot of younger players, I think the feeling of playing in an ensemble, whether that's a trio or a quartet or a larger flute choir, I think it's a really motivating. It's a sort of vehicle to keep the contact with the instrument when, you know, teenagers notoriously go through sort of phases where sport is more important, or the first girlfriend, boyfriend is more important, or schoolwork becomes more important. And I know that I know several young players now who, you know, maybe they're not putting in hours every day in their individual practice, but they won't stop going to lessons because they want to keep playing in the flute choir. And that's, you know, at its heart, I suppose that's the drive behind flute ensembles. It's just it's a wonderful way of making music together.
Yeah. And so we're talking about, I was talking about the flute. I mean, because we want to talk about it wouldn't be a Haynes TV broadcast without talking about your beautiful instrument yourself, and how did you come across Haynes? How did you get to play on the beautiful instrument you've got?
Well, actually, I was thinking about it the other day. My flute teacher, between 12 and 17, she played on an old silver Haynes. So I don't know whether somewhere that sort of sound was in my head. But I was playing a silver flute, a Japanese silver flute, for many years, very happily, and I wasn't looking for anything else. And I was on tour with the orchestra in Australia when I started having problems with the key, and I took it to David Leviston in Sydney, flutes and flutists. And I said, "Oh, David, please, could you help me?" You know, he said, "That's fine. We'll take it over to the repair guy, Angus, I think." Mm-hmm. And he said, "But while you're here, you have to try this." And I smiled. No, really, how long is this going to take? And he said, "No, really, you should try it." I said, "Well, David, the thing is, I'm not really a gold flute player." He said, "Try it." And so I did, because he was quite insistent. And I thought, oh my God, this is really wonderful. This is really beautiful. And so I played on it for, you know, the half an hour while my flute was being repaired. And then I went on holiday to New Zealand for a while. And I kept thinking about this flute and the sound, and was it really that wonderful? And so when you and I met shortly after that
in Rome,
yeah, and I said, "Listen, you know, I tried this flute in Australia and it was really nice. Can I have a go on yours?" And I think I tried. I think I tried it in Rome, and somewhere else I tried it as well. So it was sort of.
I think it was then at the Adams Festival after that, I think, as well.
Festival. So it was, you know, it was something I couldn't quite let go of, the sound that I'd managed to. It was the first time that I'd played a gold flute and thought, that's my voice. I'd never had that ever before, which, you know, I was quite happy about.
Yeah.
And so then I decided, no, I really have to give this a go. So I went to the orchestra and asked if they could help finance it. And a very kind sponsor of the orchestra offered to come up with half the money. And so that was...
And that's for
Yeah,
and because your flute is actually a supermodel. Your flute is one that lots of photographs have been taken of. So a lot of time, whenever you see a Haynes gold flute, like blown up on a banner, it's your flute.
Really?
Yeah, it's a supermodel. It's a billboard edition. Did you always have a flute harp trill?
Yeah.
Did you always have one?
No.
On previous flutes, it's the first one you had.
I did have. About 10 years ago, I bought a second-hand Powell, which had the C-sharp trill on it. And for the first sort of 2 weeks, I just kept hitting it all the time when I didn't want to be hitting it. And then I really grew to love it. I didn't play on that flute for very long for various reasons, but So when I had the opportunity to order this gorgeous thing, I decided, yeah, C sharp trill, and I don't use it very, very often, but when I do, Dvorak 9.
Yeah, it's got four whole bars of it, just B to C sharp.
Just brilliant.
And if the second flute hasn't got it, then you're just like,
oh no, but I meant the bit about the
okay, no, maybe it's Dvorak 8. It's got 4 bars of just B to C sharp trills, both but with both flutes. And if if the other flute player hasn't got it, they're doing this, and you're good, great.
Oh, but so now, yes, gold is. I had to change all my jewelry and everything.
Oh wow, wonderful. And so, I mean, we're approaching the end of this, but I was going to ask you, the sort of the favorite aspects of your musical life. What do you enjoy most, and has that changed, post Corona?
I really, really miss the orchestra, and I really worry about when we're going to be able to play, a big symphony all together. With a full hall, because our hall is about 2,200, and we're quite used to filling that 4 times a week with the same program. And I don't know how long it's going to take us to get back to that. So I think that however long it takes, it's going to be a while before that happens again. So I really, really miss that. But what I love, I think, the most about my professional life is the variety, to be honest. I love the orchestra. That's my first love. I love, from time to time, being a soloist. I love teaching. I love traveling, which is something which the job offers, which I had never realized that would be such a wonderful, what's the word I'm looking for?
An aspect of the life. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I'm very, very lucky.
Yeah. No, it's well, wonderful things happen to wonderful people. So it's that's great. And it was interesting in Gareth's interview a couple of weeks ago. There was a question that came in, and I sort of thought, that's a strange question. And then I asked it anyway, and it got a wonderful answer. And so I'm going to ask you the same one, just so we can put a full stop on today's interview. But it's asking about, do you have like a mantra or like a philosophy that you like to sort of operate by, and what would that be?
Well, at the end of every NAFLAC course, what I say to the participants is sort of mantra. I don't know sort of quite how it came about the first time, but it really rings true for my life, and that's work hard, have fun, and enjoy sharing your music. And I think that's, yeah.
Well, that couldn't be a better note on which to end. Emily Bannon, thank you so much for your time, for this lovely information. It's a live session. We've had a nice amount of people watching live, and this is going to be up, and I'm sure lots of people are going to get a lot of really lovely things from what you've got to say. And likewise, so it's in the link, a link to your YouTube channel. I suggest everyone go and check that out, and subscribe and have a look at these wonderful videos. And so I hope that eventually you don't have time again to make these videos. That's what I'm going to hope for. So, but in the meantime, I think as a flute community, we're very, very grateful for them. And so I will say thank you very much.
Thank you, Gareth. Thank you. It's been lovely.
All right. Thanks a lot, Emily.
Yeah.
So there we go. So it was great to see Emily, and we are going to, like I said, we will have next week on Tuesday. We will be back here with Amy Porter on Tuesday. She's going to be talking about her Porter Flute Pod, and then I think the following week we're going to have a really interesting chat, which for now will remain secret. But I think so. Stay tuned to something on the 20th of May, which I think will be a really lovely chat. So we're going to have that coming up as well. any requests for any future content, that you just let us know. You can drop us an email, drop us a message, or leave a message in the comments. And in the meantime, I will wish you a very good evening from London.